Once you have cut apart your box, you're going to roll out clay slabs and you're going to start tracing them. Now, if you have just the squares, you're going to roll out slabs that will fit your squares or your rectangles. But if you have a really long template, like if you're making an oval box and then this needs to wrap all the way around, you're going to need one really long slab. So keep that in mind as you're working, that you need that really long slab to make your clay. One thing that I used, so I used my dowels, and one thing that I used to keep my clay at a consistent thickness is I used highlighters. You can really use anything that has kind of the same thickness here, so I use kind of this part of the highlighter. But if you've got other dowels at home, if you've got kind of like thick slabs of wood or something like that that you can put on either side and roll out, that would work as well. So once your clay slab is rolled out, remember to smooth it out. Then you're going to place your clay, or place your templates in the middle. You want to make sure they both fit without being right on the edge, because oftentimes the edge is a little bit tapered. And then you're going to trace them. So here's my first one. I'm going to put that aside in case I need to recut a slab. Cut it with my fettling knife, your clay knife. Now I'm going to take my box that I just cut out and I'm going to transport it to a flat surface. So this can be any flat surface, and I'm gonna leave it and make sure it's flat against that surface, and I'm gonna cover it until I put my box together. So all of my slabs need to be cut in the same class period, and then you'll put them all together in the same class period as well. They should be about like a little more than 1/4 of an inch thick. You don't want super thin slabs, you don't want super thick slabs, you want that 1/4 of an inch, and I'll pull this up to show you. You want that in your clay. There you go. All right, so I'm going to cut the rest of these out. If you have all of your clay pieces cut out, what you're going to do is you're going to take your first one, your biggest one, and you can stack your clay pieces on top of each other so long as they're the same size. So I can take all of my 5x6 tiles, and I'm going to take saran wrap. You can use saran wrap, you can use plastic bags. Please don't use paper towel because it sucks all the moisture out. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take one of my next pieces of clay, and I'm going to make sure that they stack exactly on one another, because I don't want them to apply uneven pressure. And I'll just keep doing that with all of my pieces that are exactly the same size. And normally we wouldn't do this in the classroom because you have a lot more room to store it, but because we're at home, I'm going to have you do this. And then once you get them all stacked up, you're going to take whatever pieces don't fit, you'll stack them up in their own separate pile, and then you're going to cover the whole thing with a bag to let them harden up so that you can put them together. If you're doing a round or circular box, what you're going to do after you cut out your slabs is going to be a little bit different, and that's because your slabs need to be plastic, which means bendable. In order for you to start working on your clay, you have to actually start bending them today. So what you're going to do is you're going to pick up your slab and you're going to just really gently start to slowly kind of curve it. So you can see here that this slab, I'm not bending it to its full potential yet. Eventually, it needs to actually be able to sit on top of this one. But I need to start bending it slowly and give the clay slow time to stretch. So every couple minutes, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start bending a little more and a little more. And I'm not going to leave it like this for very long because I don't want it to be set like this. I'm slowly kind of bending it, and if I see any cracks or slight kind of stress fractures, I'm just smoothing them out and kind of babying the clay a little bit because you're asking it to do a lot when you're stretching it out like this. Eventually you're going to need to bend your clay to fit on top of your slab. So you have the top cut out, I have the bottom. And then what you're going to need to do is you're going to need to start you're going to put a plastic layer. It can be a plastic grocery bag. It can be saran wrap. I find that saran wrap works a little bit better. And you're going to put that in between them so they don't get stuck. But you're going to start kind of fitting your clay to your slab box. And once it's pretty fit on there, like you've got it kind of bent where you need it, now's where you're going to cover your box. And you want them to shrink together. So I'm going to kind of pick up my saran wrap, and then what I'll do is I'll cover it with my bag and kind of seal it up for now. And I want it to start slowly hardening, which is why you're doing this and giving it kind of a night in between. You'll want to keep checking it, and what you're checking for is that when you do this to your clay, it doesn't really bend as much. So when you're kind of touching it lightly, it shouldn't bend. You're looking for the almost leather hard state.